Hey everybody, it is Roger King and welcome to the Real Estate Investing Evolution. Please check today's video out. It's going to be weird, it's going to be helpful, and it's, I think, going to be maybe a little illuminating into the practices of really bad decisions that people make based on ego and based on ineptitude. Stick with me. So today is August 16th, and I want to talk to you about yesterday's Zoom call mediation. I'm in Palm Springs, as you can see. I'm looking at one of my houses, one of my investment projects here that I've been working on, and I've got another video on that one. But I needed to stick in a hotel room, literally on the phone from 7:30 a.m. Pacific time until I think it was 4:30 p.m. Pacific time yesterday, doing a mediation. This is a project that I've been involved with since 2014. And today is August 16th, 2023. What is that, 7 years? No, that's 9 years. Holy cow. I've been dealing with this particular project for 9 years, and I've talked about one of these other investing partners that I had where we did a bunch of projects together, and it wasn't a really spectacular relationship, and it exploded fantastically because of ineptitude or greed or a lack of ethics, lack of honesty. And I knew this, now it's been years that I've known this guy's character and his inability to not bury his head in the sand for weeks. He would just disappear. You're calling him, you're texting him, and you're saying, hey man, we need answers. We need money. We need this project to get finished, or we need this, update on where our funds are. And he would just not call you back. He would just bury his head in the sand because the pressure was too great. And I think I've mentioned, and maybe if I haven't, this is just sort of annoying to me. I'm sure that this particular person I did make a video on this. I said that he's cost me $500,000. As of yesterday, he's cost me about $900,000. $900,000 of cold hard cash just on this one person. And it's annoying, to say the least. But what I find fascinating are all of the lessons that I've gleaned from that relationship. I find it extremely helpful 9 years later to know how to structure things because of this person. I know that you've got to have things in writing, and this is the perfect example. This particular guy, again, he's going to remain nameless. He started off telling people that, hey, you can invest in this particular property. These are 24 lots, and we're going to build 12, and then we're going to sell those, refinance them, and then we're going to take that capital and build the 12 that are behind it. And I call those 12A and then 12B. And so in 2014, I'd been working with him for a couple of years. I knew him. We'd become very good friends, and what I thought were good friends, and invested $980,000, I think it was. $980,000. And I said, I want to have my 980 structured so that it owns 6 of these units, so that I am protected against anything else in these other remaining 18 units. I want my 6 units. Agreed to it. We set up 2 LLCs, one to be the beneficiary, one to be the trustee of a trust that owned each individual unit. So I had 6 trusts. I was a partner in 2 LLCs, one as trustee and one as beneficiary. All of that was copacetic. We had it legally drawn up because I have a really spectacular attorney, Linda Sands, who is just, I find her to be extraordinarily deep in her knowledge, understanding, and use of so many different types of entities like this, in particular in North Dakota, land trusts. And I've known her for so long, and she's been a really dear friend and a spectacular attorney. And so we had these set up. We started construction. You know, it's a slow process. This is at the end of the oil boom in North Dakota. So 2014, we finished everything. We finally got everything finished and recorded early 2015. That's a warning sign right there when you can't rely on your partner to actually get things recorded and you're already sending money. Don't do that. Make sure that you're wiring funds into escrow. And then they would do a draw release from escrow for those funds. So I didn't do that, but that's okay. You know, you think you know somebody, you think you're best friends with somebody, and they don't have your best interest at heart. It's okay. These lessons are hard earned. So he started construction, and I also had heard that he was raising additional capital from other investors. And I thought, that's fine. You know, we've got 6 other units that are also going to get constructed. So why don't we, I've got my 6, they're already done. And it turns out, I didn't learn this. So I'm in it in 2015. It wasn't until 2018 that I saw this other person's agreement. And it was a very specialized trust out of Nevada based on some weird Nevada law, which are great. I've used this document, this trust structure. And there's some very explicit instructions that say they received that in 2015, the document. And after my relationship with this guy, who I thought was my friend, had dissolved, this investor guy group was saying, hey, I've got, $1.4 million into this project too. And I'm like, I've taken over the project. Let's split it pro rata. I took over the project, I think in 2016, 2017. I added another $450,000 into it to build it out, to finish it, so that at some point I could sell those things or refinance those, pull my capital back out. Because I didn't want to be in the North Dakota market. I'm not a fan of the winter, as you guys know, because I live in Puerto Rico. I lived here in the desert, Palm Springs, for 8 years. I love warmth. So North Dakota is not my spot. The oil bust had occurred, so I wanted out. I dealt with some bad tenants already. I wanted out. This guy sends me this document, and I start looking at it, and I'm thinking, okay, well, they're missing a couple of things here and there. And we're in this process. And so this investor comes to me and it says, I want 80% of the loan proceeds on these 12 units when you refinance. I just said, I'm not going to do that. And this was what's funny. I said to the guy, I remember this so vividly, I don't think that's fair. And we're on the phone, and he says to me, Roger, life isn't fair. And I was aghast. I used so many expletives. I'm not going to say them all here, but it just dawned on me at that point. And I think that this is probably one of the biggest lessons, is that people tend to be out for themselves. People are only looking out for their best interests. Most people. There are some people, like me, who realize that there is a shit show of problems here caused by this other guy who's out of the picture. And I'm here to help solve the problem so that we can all get our money out as much as we can, as fast as we can. But this investor guy, ego, stupidity, and I think probably a bit of embarrassment too. And I said, look, I'll give you guys 60%, and then I'll keep the rest of the properties and we'll pay you off as soon as possible. And he said, no, I want 80. And then on the remaining money that you owe me, I want a 12% loan and I want 4 points. And I'm thinking, man, I've been into this project. I've added $450,000. I worked to get this thing up and running, and the innumerable headaches caused by the original partner I had on it. And you're coming at me and you're saying, I want everything that I'm owed. And it dawned on me that this guy didn't do what he was supposed to do as an investor. And that really has to do with he didn't verify that the documents were all signed accurately. He trusted the partner I had because he thought that he was a friend as well. He didn't verify to make sure that there was security recorded against the property. Again, he trusted that guy. He never followed up. I know that this investor guy was going through a lot of other challenges. I'd heard he was in a very intense legal battle at that same time, and he wasn't following up, making sure that all of the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed. And that's not on me. That's on him. But he's chosen to come after me and not the other guy. Now, it turns out, add a little more color to this story, this other guy was being charged by the SEC for doing the exact same thing, taking investor capital, not paying out on it, not paying an interest return, not paying the money back, and not securitizing it with proper documentation. And he'd done this already. And the SEC had already adjudicated. I don't know what the term is. Did they find him guilty? Yeah, I mean, you could say that he was guilty of doing this, defrauding investors. Fascinating story. So the exact same thing with some of the exact same people, same documents. He didn't have his notary signatures on it. They're supposed to be what's called, in this particular trust, a resident trustee. Somebody who actually lives in the state of Nevada needs to sign it and have that notarized. And that hadn't been done. And so this investor guy thought, okay, well, I'll solve the problem. Again, just to recap, he wanted 80% of all the proceeds out of a refinance. And I'd agreed to 60%. And he said no. And so we have this guy's ego is so out of control. I said, look, it's not going to happen. You're not going to get these properties back. They were all deeded into my name when we got to a certain point, and he brings a lawsuit against the other investor, my former partner, and they sort of try to retroactively jumpstart the dead heart of this trust. And they don't have any opposition. So the court, whatever court in Nevada says, sure, you can jumpstart this thing. But had they known from me or somebody else, my attorney, fighting, saying, look, there's no good reason that should allow this jumping starting of the heart because it could provide problems down the road, there was no way for me to know because I was never noticed. There was no hint that they were trying to resuscitate this dead trust because, again, needed to have the signatures, and those signatures just never happened. So they resuscitated it through the legal system in Nevada. And what I find supremely funny is they now think they have a valid trust and that this mortgage is now a valid mortgage. So the trust had created a mortgage, supposedly. The invalid trust in 2015 somehow created a valid mortgage. I don't know if that makes sense to me. Does it make sense to you? I'm not an attorney. I've talked to several. They don't seem to think that it could work. But I wasn't working with my opposition attorney. And so what I find fascinating is that we've gone through this whole process for years of them suing me and suing the investor and getting a judgment against that investor. I think it's for $3 million. Okay? $3 million against that other guy who I've not talked to for years now. And they come after the property because they know they're never going to get the judgment from that guy. He's a deadbeat. And so the idea is come after me, come after the properties, and see what you can get. Well, the only problem with that I see is that they don't own the property and they have so many holes in their argument. How do you resuscitate this trust? How do you retroactively put this mortgage on a property that no longer is owned by those original investors, partners, and do all this sort of stuff 7 years down the road? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't seem like the court system would allow for that. So they came after me. Finally, they realized that when I had argued and we filed a motion for summary judgment, which is a document that says, hey, Your Honor, here are the points to the case. We'd like you to just dismiss it. And they saw that, I guess, I don't know. They saw that and said, Roger has some very good salient points to the validity of this Frankentrust and mortgage. And, I don't know what's going through people's heads. So they filed a response to it. And yesterday we had a mediation. The mediation started at 8 a.m. Pacific time. And it went until 4:30 p.m. And I was wanting to, as all along, I wanted to just give them what they were originally promised, if they were promised anything, give me what I was originally promised, and then we'll walk away and be done with it. I don't want these properties. I've had them and I'm tired of it. I've got so many bigger fish to fry. It's not 12 units in North Dakota. I've got so many bigger things that I want to focus on and work on, and these YouTube videos and, the launch of my, founders group and all of these other things. And what I just find fascinating, we ended up 50-50. What I find frustrating is the idea that from 2018 till yesterday, the opportunity costs, lost opportunity costs, are tremendous. If he would have taken our deal and taken $1.2 million, I think it was, so he would have been shy about $200,000 from his original investment. Take that money in 2018. How much more money do you think each of us could have earned on that $1 million over the last 5 years? So all of this to say, lost opportunity costs are greater than you can ever know. If you can get out of a bad project, do it. It may hurt in the short term. It may help in the long term. It may. I can't guarantee anything, of course. But we had an opportunity to have that $1 million each and get our stuff done and handled as best we could. And we could have I know I could have turned that $1 million into at least $3 million in the last 5 years. I could have tripled the money. I'm sure he could have at least doubled it if he had made sure he signed all of his documents next time, which I'm sure he's learned that lesson. I hope he's learned that lesson. If you ever see this, I hope you've learned that lesson. Trusting people is good, but, sign the documents. I just think that people are not focused on the big picture often. They're focused on their greed, their ego is bruised, how could I trust that investor guy, my partner? He's thinking, how could I have invested with money with that guy? Now, the partner I had did a lot of shady stuff. And I think that even this investor guy had originally put in maybe $500,000, $800,000 in another project. And then my partner guy just took those proceeds, call it $500,000. I don't know what the actual numbers are. $500,000 plus $200,000, $300,000 in quote profit, and just rolled it into this new property without giving this guy the opportunity to take his money back. And I don't think that's kosher at all. And in fact, the SEC thinks it's illegal. So unless you have express written consent from your partner on this, you got to ask him first. Hey, you mind if I do this? And I think that guy just didn't make sure that all those documents were signed. And there were so many gaps. That's why he decided 5 years later, 6 years later, to just acquiesce finally. He wanted some of his money and he saw the gaps because I presented some pretty serious gaps to his argument. I didn't want to go to trial in February, but trial is only one phase, right? I could have appealed. And he could have appealed if his ego allowed him to. I just want out. So I've got what I originally wanted. I will be able to sell these, once our documents are done, do a little renovation, sell these units, get my cash back, the majority of my cash. I'll still take a little bit of hit, but I'll be done with it and I'll be able to turn that money and invest it in some other way, pay back my investors, all of that stuff that we normally do. Anyway, I hope all of this information is insightful for you, and I hope that you can see some of the points. Don't be greedy. Don't let your ego make your choices. Make sure you get all of your documents signed. What is the time value of money? What is the lost opportunity cost? Get this stuff done right now. Turn that money. Get into the investment, get it done, and then get out of it, if that's the plan, right? That was always the plan. We're going to be in this project for a year. It's now 9 years. Don't make those same mistakes that this guy made. Anyway, I hope this was helpful. I hope you find exciting information, and these stories are, to me, they're mind-blowing. To some others, they may be just like, it's never going to happen to me. Okay, good. Congratulations. But if you find them helpful, please hit subscribe. I've got dozens more. And thank you again. I appreciate your time. I will see you as soon as possible.